Hello and welcome to Pitt Street Research. My name is Stuart Roberts. I'm one of the founders of our firm. And with me today is Dr. Garry Lowder, who's chairman of Dome Gold Mines, ASX DME. Garry, welcome to Pitt Street Research.
Thank you.
It's been a good year for you. The Sigatoka Iron Sands project in Fiji, you're now preparing for a definitive feasibility study on that project. And the data to date is pretty exciting.
Well, it is indeed. We have started on the DFS, if I can use that short form.
Yes.
And the results are very encouraging, but we haven't completed it. We have probably 2/3 or 3/4 of the full study to do.
Yes.
But what we've done so far has pointed us in a really interesting direction, because what it's shown particularly is that we can start this project in stages and grow it in stages.
Yes.
We don't have to go in boots and all right from the beginning. We can do it at a relatively modest scale, get a good cash flow, and then as we expand the market, we can expand production.
Right. So a lot of the viewers here will have visited Fiji before. Tell us where Sigatoka is located.
The Sigatoka River is the biggest river in Fiji,
yes.
And most people who've been to the Coral Coast would have crossed the river when
right.
they went through the town of Sigatoka and
yes.
going to the various resorts along the Coral Coast. Where the river comes out into the sea, there's no coral because fresh water
right.
kills the
right.
coral.
Yes, yes.
So there's a bridge over the river in the town of Sigatoka. So people heading around the coast to Suva or to various resorts would have driven across the river.
Right.
Our area of operation is down the river from that bridge. It's about the last 3 kilometres or so of the river down to the mouth, where the river is basically choked with sand, and the sand is developed also into the banks, and there's just this very large deposit of sand which
yes.
contains iron ore.
Yes, so very rich in magnetite, a strong heavy mineral content as well.
Yes, magnetite is the main component of value, and magnetite is an iron ore. And of course what nature has done for us here is separate the iron ore from the rock,
right.
so that it occurs as grains of black sand. And magnetite is an iron ore which actually has a higher iron content than the normal hematite iron ore.
Yes.
And it's used particularly in the specialist applications by steel makers. For example, they do blend it with recycled iron to improve the process. And it's used in particular applications. So it's a very good iron ore to have, and especially as sand, because it gives greatest flexibility to how it ends up being used.
Right. Now, in addition to that, you've also got a very valuable co-product in the industrial sands component of the project.
That's right. As I mentioned, it's a very big sand deposit.
Right.
And it turns out that the sand that hosts the magnetite has other heavy minerals, and we're investigating these at the moment. In fact, we've found that there's a little bit of gold in there as well.
Wow.
We don't quite know yet how much, but that's looking pretty interesting. So there's other heavy minerals of value, but there's a lot of basic, good, high-quality industrial sand for which there's a strong demand in Fiji.
Right.
And so the way things are shaping up, as we produce magnetite, we'll have a lot of co-product, high-quality sand that will be used initially by the Fijian cement and construction industry. And this sand has been tested in Australia, and it meets Australian industrial standards.
Yes.
So it's good stuff.
Yes, yes.
And it will generate a lot of revenue for the company in addition to the iron ore revenue.
Right, right. Now, it's a commodity that not many people know about. As in, it surprised me to learn that Dubai, which obviously is surrounded by sand, imports a lot of its sand for building purposes in Australia. So sand needs to have certain qualities before it can be used in building.
Well, it does.
And other industrial applications, obviously, yeah.
That's right. The sand has to meet certain grade size and grade
right.
size distribution requirements. Right. It has to be relatively non-reactive. You don't want your concrete cancer happening
yes.
if you use the wrong sand.
Yes.
So there are very much quality control issues. The thing that will surprise most people, I suppose, is that while everyone knows that beaches are full of sand and things like that, that sand you can actually use for construction is not that easy to find.
Yes.
Sydney, for example, used to have, years ago when I was a boy, these massive sand hills out at Kurnell, and they've long since gone.
Right.
Sydney is bringing sand in from distant places.
And even importing it from abroad.
Well, we
right.
believe so,
right.
yes. And look, most countries in Southeast Asia are desperately short of sand, and they're bringing it in from wherever they can get it.
Right.
And in some cases it's actually just for land reclamation as well. And when you think about where that's happening, in places like Hong Kong and Singapore, the value of the land that's created is so high that they can afford to pay quite a good price just to bring in landfill sand.
Yes.
Clean, good quality sand as landfill. So we see that as a potential market for us as we grow the project into the future. There's a lot of upside there.
Well, and it's interesting to me. You don't even need to ship the sand very far. The Fijian economy is doing reasonably well at the moment in terms of its growth, and that's resulting in some construction, a pretty vibrant construction scene which you can sell into.
Well, that's right. I think in the last probably 10, 15 years, particularly since democracy came back in
2014,
Fiji,
yes.
The amount of construction is quite amazing, and some of it's been funded by Chinese interests and some of it from other sources. But the thing that everything is doing is using a lot of concrete.
Right.
And whether it's for new buildings, for new resorts, for new roads, for dams, whatever it is, there's a big demand for concrete, and you can't make concrete without sand. So the market is there, and we believe that our first stage of project development we should be able to sell all of the industrial sand we produce as a co-product within Fiji. And there are a number of advantages of that. One is that we'll be a supplier who meets all government environmental requirements,
yes,
unlike the piecemeal artisanal sand production at the moment
yes,
that has no concern for environment.
Yes,
so
yes.
We'll have a high-quality environment, we'll have high-quality, consistent quality sand, which the users will be very happy to have. So I think we'll be welcomed very much as a supplier of good quality sand to the industry in Fiji. And then beyond that, we'll need to develop markets for export, and we think that's very likely in Southeast Asia.
Okay. Now, you recently upgraded your resource at Sigatoka. So you believe you're on track for a 20-year mine life once the project starts up.
Well, it'll probably be a lot longer.
Right.
We can easily see 20 years of production.
Yes.
Yes. It's a very large sand deposit, and the Sigatoka River itself is quite shallow. It's only about 1 metre deep because it's choked with sand that washes down the river every wet season.
So dredging the river, potentially that could make it more navigable, or other local economic benefits as well, right?
That's very much the case.
Right.
The river now, because it's so shallow, in the wet season, it floods very easily, very regularly.
Right.
And the town of Sigatoka, many people might have seen it, is subject to flooding. By dredging the river, it will deepen it, and so the water will flow out more readily. It will mitigate the effects of flooding. We'll also there's a big sandbar basically closes the river off from the sea, and this helps block the river as well and keep the floodwaters in. We'll remove that and basically allow the water to run out to sea, allow the sea and the tides to flush into the river and rejuvenate the river, because it's pretty much a dead river now, and it's been so choked. So there'll be very positive environmental impacts of what we're doing. And I think the Fijian government's pretty pleased about that.
All right. So you're getting your DFS up and running now, and subject to a favourable outcome there. You've got your environmental permitting, so it would be full steam ahead towards initial production at Sigatoka, potentially 2022, 2023.
Well, that's right. I mean, we want to do it as soon as possible, but I guess it'll probably be the end of next year before we complete all of the feasibility work we want to do. The construction development will take in the order of a year. So 2 years from now is the earliest we could do it. We will have to do a bit more environmental work, but that's in train, and will happen as part of the definitive feasibility study. So we know what we have to do, and we know roughly within pretty good numbers how much it's going to cost. We just need to get there, because the incentive for us is that this project has so many advantages for a small company moving into the mining sphere. I've seen a lot of companies come unstuck because they take on too big a bite as their first project. Right. This project lends itself to starting on a modest scale and then just scaling up as you get established and build markets and build expertise. The consultants we've appointed to help us with the definitive feasibility study and conduct that for us is IHC Robbins.
Right.
Well, IHC is a Dutch company that's been involved in sand mining for hundreds of years.
What they don't know about digging sand up out of the sea isn't worth knowing, right?
That's pretty much the case. They make everything that you ever need to mine, move, process sand, and from from the smallest pump to the largest ship. And they acquired the Robbins company in Brisbane a few years ago, and now that's their Australian arm. And Robbins have a lot of expertise in assessing sand from a mining point of view. So it's a good mix, a good match for us. And what's emerged as they've done this work is that certain proprietary equipment that IHC can supply, what thing they call a TT sand pump, it's just like a big vacuum cleaner. You stick it into the sand and suck it up,
Right.
and it just comes out as a pumped slurry straight into the plant to be processed, and you've got saleable product virtually from day one.
Okay.
So we're really pleased to have them involved. They have a very high level of expertise, and they have laid out for us a route to production which has very low risk, very low capital, but very quick return to cash flow and potentially a very quick payback period.
Okay. Well, Garry Lowder, congratulations. You've got your company maker, and good luck in the forthcoming DFS.